Welcome back to our Power BI series, where we look at how you can link financial reporting into Power BI and useful information for you. Once again, I'm Luke Haskins, I'm a financial controller here, and I'm accompanied by my colleague Robin.
Yeah, I'm Robin, Service Delivery Director here at Nestitude. We're an IT support company based in the southwest of the UK.
So hopefully you know by the description coming in, but today we're going to cover how to customize report and link live data into Power BI. We're going to split that into two sections: how to customize the report and link the live data, and then after we've gone through that kind of live video and showed the ways to aspect it, we're going to look at how to integrate data from Power BI back into Office 365 apps. Just have a quick conversation on that. So the first point, we'll go on to customizing reports and linking live data. I'm going to pass you over to a good friend of mine that hopefully you're used to by now, which will be me from the past, and you can go through all the steps to customize your reports. Okay, welcome future people. I guess you won't notice any subtle differences with me from the one you just passed across, but this is what we're going to step through in this webinar mainly going. So this screen you're seeing now is Power BI Service. I don't know why it's called Power BI Service. It's basically the web app version of it. So you're going through your browser rather than your desktop app. Okay, we're linking it through with Xero, as we covered a bit before, and the only way to do that is to do it through Power BI's apps rather than linking it as a direct data source. So on your main login through the browser, Power BI Service, go on to the left-hand side, you can see a selection of apps. If you hit on apps, it will show you a selection of ones you've already paired with. Obviously, I've already linked mine up on here, but I'll show you how to go through to that from the first time. So top right hand corner, get apps. Complicated, I know, you wouldn't think that was the first process to kind of go into. It'll pop up with a whole world of different elements that you can link up and use. These apps are preset reports that people have created to use information and do specific views already. So they've done kind of some of the donkey work for you. As you can see, there's a whole world of things. I don't want to see that analyze COVID-19 app ever again. I think I've had enough of that now, but I am more interested in the NFL analytics, so half tempted by that one. But for this one, there's loads. So we'll have a search going through, type in Xero, and it brings it up. Simply, I click on that then, and it would give me the access to add that app. There's no additional cost for this. It's a free app to add on. As long as you've got your Power BI setup going on, you won't need any additional element to be able to put Xero onto it. Okay, so apologies, I can't show you how to finalize setting the Xero app up because obviously I've done it before, so it will mess with Power BI's brain if I try and add it again. But when you try and add it through, it will just ask you to link it to whatever company you want. I know many of you, same as we have multiple companies set up in Xero, so you will have to select which one you want it to set up for the report, and you can then do that separately for a different company afterwards if you wish. So when you've done that, you can link through and see Xero's app and the kind of different views of data it gives you. So on the one I'm set up, it is Xero's kind of dummy information, similar to what we used before in the last webinar. Obviously, I'm not going to link it up to Nettitude's live information because I'd end up with some kind of big legal situation and probably losing my job. So I'm not keen on that fact. So hence why my refresh time says back from July last year, but that's only because that's when the last dummy data was updated. So don't read into that too much. It is a live link. It will refresh every time you go into the data. But as you can see from this page, it gives you from the app a lot of information and different views from your cash flow perspective, your closing balances on your banks, cash in, cash out, any kind of different messages that Xero's got kind of going on. Really good for an overview, especially more senior in the financial roles. It lets you know what's waiting to be signed off, what needs approval, what kind of transactions are still being held. So again, real solid balance going through with that. It obviously gives you a view on your debtors and creditors, how your revenue's changing, what receivables are still outstanding, who's kind of taking the mic or not paying their bills quick enough. Lots and lots of different views, visuals, and base information going through. So a lot of people look at this and they may well have the information they want to see, and be able to manipulate it through. We've got different asset balances, your gross profit percentages you can set linking through, but what I found, being honest, from past experience, is it's very one-dimensional. These tables, obviously, they're set up to look at specific fields preset within Xero, and in the real life, you find there's a lot of other elements that end up getting involved and can affect it. So I find, although as a quick headline, looking at my closing bank balance, looking at my cash in the last 30 days, these bits of information are really useful. Outside of that, it can be a bit of a misleading view as a whole. But where the benefit comes in from this is that you are able to use the information that this uses to make kind of your own view on it. So that's what we're going to do now. So if you were to log in, you get the same view as me. In this blue bar along the top, 3 little dots to see what else is. It says see related content. By clicking on that, what it does, it shows you what information it's using to create this set of reports and information in the app. Within it, you see the report itself, but you also see the data set. So this is the information it's pulling from Xero to be able to create the views we've just looked at. Within this, you now have a create report option. So if I click on that, it will whirl its magic and take me into a very similar view to what you would have seen in our last webinar and what you see from the desktop app itself. It will give me all the different tables of information it's using, from its address database, bank statement transactions, list of contacts, invoice details, invoice lines, month-end transactions, and the whole trial balance itself. So going into these, obviously trial balance being the big one, it will give you all your account codes and your closing balances on it and your amount. Balance lines, like, to a degree, you can probably, using the trial balance, as most people know, financial information wise, you can get it to pretty much tell you anything you want it to kind of tell you from that setup. So it can make it a lot easier. What we'll do on this basis, just to give you an example of what to do, we'll use the invoices tab to keep it simple. So what I find as a first basis, and for a lot of my reports, I use a matrix. When we looked at it in the last webinar, I had as a base the matrix because I find this enables you to get a view of the data in kind of a pivot table format, something you can see, it's easy to use and it's drill down. And then there might be specifics from this you then want to put more of a visual on with, say, a graph or a column or something along this sort of basis. So I've just used the matrix symbol, added that, it gives me blank. What it does then, it gives me the rows, columns and values that I want to put on it. So good starting base. Let's take invoice number. I want to have all my rows to show me an invoice number. Let's expand that so we can actually have a bit more of a view on it. It's got a full list of the invoice numbers and how you can see those elements going through. That tells me what invoice it's got, but not really much else. So what else do I want to do? I think really we want a total. So for a value, I want to see what the total of the invoice was. Okay, so we've just added our total column in and we can see all the total balances for the invoices, giving us a good base information on there. What else can we do? Well, what I want to kind of see is the date periods, what's going on, how is that breaking through? So within the invoices tab itself, I've then got invoice date. If I drop that into column, it will automatically go to what's called a hierarchy. So it will break any date, anything it picks up as a date field into years, quarters, months, or days. So as you can see in the column itself, I've got data, one transact expense claim from 2017, and then everything else is 2019. It's the sample data, what can I tell you? So going through from there, I don't really want to see that 2017 information. That's not really helping me much. Let's filter it out. Filters on this visual gives me a list, everything I've added in at the moment, but also I can add anything I want into this filter. So for now, like I said, invoice date on the year, I could put an advanced filtering saying I want it to be precisely between 2018 to 2020. In this sample of data, it's not worth it. I'm going to go to basic filter in. It's going to give me a nice little view like I'd see in similar to a pivot table or something in Excel. I'm just going to look, just show me 2019 information. Okay, what that's done is cleared out that 2017 data now, and I've only got the view for the year as a whole. Okay, let's get into on that. Now that I've only got 2019, it's not really much help seeing just the 2019 total. So within this column itself, I can take out other information. I'm going to take the year out, which you think about its mind, but what it does then, it goes to the next filter down. So it's going to show me quarters. I've got the quarter elements going through, quarter 2, quarter 3. Again, can be helpful, especially if you're reporting quarters, but I think the month is going to be more relevant for us really. So I'm going to take the quarter out as well. Right through, and that's going to give me my monthly totals going across in the bottom and give me my yearly total go. Much more information going through on it. Okay, what else? So looking at this, I can see by the nature of what's pulled across, I've got some funny different elements going on my invoice numbers. I don't really want to see, this is obviously different transactions gone through. It's not in my normal invoice template. It might be miscoded. It might be pulled from somewhere else. It might be a journal adjustment, but it's pulled it through with an invoice number. Not something I really want to do. So how can I tidy that up? I'm going to pull a field in from invoice number, put it into my filters, drop it in. What it does, it opens this element in there through. So it's automatically gone to basic filtering because that's what I used on the last one. But if I go to advanced filtering, contains INV, as you can see, the whole list of these proper invoice numbers all start with INV. And then if I apply that filter, it will then clear out all of those that information and just give me my proper invoices. You can see it's adjusted all the totals and filtered out anything I don't want to see from that. Brilliant. So we've got that in, that's the basic information that comes across. Do I really want to go to the whole list in your board? Do I want to present it to other departments looking like that? Not really. What can I do to make it look a bit better? In the visualizations column, going through, we've been doing a lot of work with the different elements from the fields perspective. If I go over to the paintbrush, there's lots of different options we can select to kind of make this information a bit more easier to view and a bit more presentable to put in front of people. So lots of different options within it. Under the style option, this will give you some preset defaults to put onto your table, different ways to kind of make the information look that Power BI is set up. I'm going to go for a bold header. Nice standout with the black against the white contrast. I like that element going through. Kind of want to add a bit more to it. Don't want to just use that. I want to put a bit more of my own flair onto it. Let's go into the values. Within this, I can change it about, I think, a nice blue for my font colors. Because I've already put that contrasting lines in, it gives me the option to change the alternative one. Let's try and make this look as fabulous as possible. So for the other ones, I'm going to make them orange. Beautiful. Got that going through. And if anything says good to me with blue and orange, I think a nice pink background on the alternate ones. And let's go for a mustard yellow for the other ones. I just want to make it as visually pleasing as possible. So someone puts a report like that in front of me, they're gone, to be honest. I'm not going to put up that kind of thing, but it just kind of helps emphasize the point of how we can change the elements. In fact, it's burning my eyes already, so I'm going to change it back. You can make it look how you want. We've got a nice little color palette, and the marketing team here and everything go through, tell me to make sure I'm using our own brand colors, but it'd be quite easy to make sure you've got that color palette, make all your reporting similar coming across and using the different tones. We'll just keep the orange and blue for now, just because nobody needs that color going on for too long. So I've put that element of touch on it. What else can I do? You see we've got subtotals. What these are our totals going across the far right hand side in this case and along the bottom. In this situation where we've got invoices, kind of makes sense, but I don't know whether you're always going to want it. So within the subtotals drop down, I can take my row ones off. Take that off, all my totals from the bottom have disappeared. I might not want to see my monthly breakdown. I might only want to show the total. Also, you can take the column subtotals off. You take those off, takes the year-to-date stuff off as well. You might not want to have that view going on. In this case, I think it makes sense, so we'll leave those on. I can put a title on it. You have to turn it on. It's defaultly off, so it's important to know that. And I'm going to go Xero Xero invoice view. Beautiful. Tells me at the top what it is. So when I send it to someone else, there's no confusion going on with it. I think a lot better in the middle. Let's put it in the middle. Puts it in the middle of the whole of the matrix as it is. So it's important to understand that. And I want to make sure everyone can see it. Let's put the size of it up. Okay. Nice 25 points. See the total. Happy with that. So the moment you see we've got a background on, what do you mean you got a background on? What that means is behind the report itself, in this cell, I've got a background. So I can change that background to put a color on it, and I'm going to go dark blue, and it's clearly going in it. You see this transparency element quite a lot when you look on the reports. They're often by default set to 100%, and you'll go, I've just set my background to blue, why the heck is it still looking like it's white? It's that transparency element. It means you can bring it into the level you want to go through on it. The more you do, the deeper the color gets on it. Okay. But it's important to realize when you're doing these reports, you see the dotted line going through it. That's the page your report will show. So although my matrix, I've got my background, looks all tidy, I've got my different colors going on it, it will have a nice white rectangle showing on it as well as the report. So that's not going to look great when you send it out. So what I often tend to do, but again, all up to personal preference, is I actually take the background off of the matrix itself and set a background on the page. All I've done in that situation is, rather than being clicked on the matrix itself, if you deselect off, literally by clicking an empty space, it will select the whole page. What we can do then is change the format of the page itself. All right, so within that, page background, change the background to purple. Again, remember what I just said. You go, Luke, I've changed the page background to purple, it's still white. It's because of this transparency. So I need to scroll that right back down to 0. And now you can see not only my space is purple, but also the background. Again, please don't send out reports looking like this with the purple, blue and orange. It's not going to be friendly going across, but it just emphasizes the points of what you can do with it. You can also get really advanced if you want to, and you can add images in. Clicking on that, you can input, it might be a company logo, it might be something you want to emphasize on this particular report. It's quite simple, literally you hit add image, it'll go to your file browser. You can look for wherever you've got images saved and select them and put them in. Within that, that's the page, and with different elements, I can put different filters. We've shown that. We've shown 2019. We've shown just to show an invoice. We've changed the dates to go through to monthly rather than showing quarter elements. There's a whole world of different views you can do from this. So I've got my matrix. It shows me my information. Good old copy and paste. It's done me another view. So if I can drag that one out, bring it across. Typical seamless format. I don't want to go focus mode because that will take me out of it. There we go, it's coming with me now. So we've got the other column. Let's see a bit more. I've got the table information. I want to see more of a line chart with it. So it's exactly the same information where I've copied it. So defaultly put it in. It's showing my total with my axis being my invoice. I don't really think I'd want invoice number on this. Now, it's got invoice number and date. If I take invoice number out of the axis, you have it going through. It shows the different elements. So it shows by month the element. Kept the same filter going in, and it shows the invoices going in. So it's saying that as the months have gone on, May 13,000, June 10,000, July 3,000. Exactly the information it shows us in the table, and it shows us how it dropped off. Again, no wonder this information's only got data up until 2019, because if that's the decline going through on your invoices pre-COVID, yeah, you're going to be shutting down. So again, it gives us that visual representation with a bit less detail, but more ways to compare it through. Again, I can mess with the formatting with this, change the colors of the line, put different elements in. So going through. So my axis is off. I don't want to axis in, I don't want to see what's going through. my data colors and go through. At the moment it's blue. Let's keep our really nice color combos going on. Let's put a pink on a purple because that looks stunning. There we go. There's lots, you can see there's a whole list of different elements I'm not even touching on, like aspect, borders, shadows, covering the axis, putting things onto it, adding images into any section of it. There's lots of different customization you can do within it. But we haven't got time to go through it all now, because otherwise this webinar would go on for about 5-6 hours and nobody wants that. You're all showing you the basis, how to collect it in. The best thing then to do is to go and get involved, try some things out for yourself and see how you can move it. Okay. Couple of points to point out at this element. So you might find when I went through that all my totals are here. What bugs me coming from a finance perspective is that's a number, it's not a monetary figure. It's not telling me in pound sterling what the value is. One of the drawbacks from using the Power BI service, inverted brackets, so the web browser, is that you can't change this data itself or the format of it. Something you can do when using the desktop app. Something I regularly do by default, it's looking at a source of information. It can't always pick out what the type of data is. You do have to normally select it. Same as you would do in Excel itself, you have to let it know some things are a monetary value rather than just a numeric value. I can't change the decimal places. If we've got lots of elements going through and you want to bring it down to show millions and you want to show it to 1 point, I can't change that in the desktop because that means changing the initial data rather than changing the view itself. So it's important to understand that when coming through. It's great, the information you have from Xero, and you can bring all this live information across, but because of the nature of the setup from Xero itself, you can't manipulate the data into certain elements, which can be restrictive at points. It can be seen as a bit of a minor drawback in the overall effect, but it's important to understand. And the other point I would put from that perspective of this is the setup it has with Xero at the moment. That may well change through that. You can only access Xero information through the app, which is why you have to use the Power BI service. But other elements such as QuickBooks or other accounting packages, Microsoft Dynamics as well, you can pull straight from the data source, so that you will be able to use desktop. You'll be able to change the line information on it. So it's got a bit more benefit from there. But I think the kind of understanding is that Xero have teamed up with them, set this app up so you save your time. You haven't got to go in and create a lot of these views. You haven't got to go and set your bank setup, because our original app view shows us a lot of that information. So it's probably worth going from that element. It's to show you I've put all these elements in. Let's save it. So save this report. What it will do is automatically save it into your workspace. So whenever you turn into Microsoft for Power BI service, you will see your My Workspace, and that's where the different elements will be saved. Okay, so it's important to understand that as well, that you can't then access it through Power BI desktop. It will only be able to be viewed through service, so you can't link it in this information from big in the desktop and link it to another element, which then makes it difficult when you want to compare these items back to, say, your frontline system. That, like for me, my invoice is coming out on my main system that we do all of our ticket transactions, etc. through. So it can be a little restrictive that I can't compare those with Xero at the moment, which I would be able to do if I use QuickBooks or Dynamics. There are workarounds. There's always workarounds in the nature of these things. Mentioned it a bit in the Q&A before. It is possible, like with the live dashboards, there is a way around it. You can export the data. You can set a rule so it exports the information that's shown in this report, and then you can access it directly. But it's a lot of background and a lot of automation work going on. And being honest, it's not something I know how to do. I would have to get one of our senior engineers here to set up for me. So again, it's possible, definitely possible. We've done it, we've manipulated it through, but it's not something I can sit here and tell you really how to do, because there's a lot of background work. But once it's set up, you can do it. So it really depends on what level of detail you need to go through and what you want to be able to compare it with. So feel free, again, in that situation, to get in contact with us. If you're a customer going through, we can have a look for you and try and set up a rule to be able to create that for you. And like I said, it's something we've done here, but very much the focus is use Xero's own app and its own dashboards that are already in case. So you can see the different views it gives you an element of drill down within it. It's all I found personally is that I like to be able to manipulate it a little bit more and show a different perspective on it. So in summary, the app is really good to use from Xero. It gives you a lot of information. You can then create your own reports off it, but it is restrictive to only be able to use through service. So it's important to understand that. If you want to take that development on, you want to run cross checks against your main invoicing system where you have your main transactions going through in the business. It's possible, but it takes some kind of background work. Hopefully that's answered a bit of the elements. I'll pass you back now to the live version of me and Robin, and we'll kind of go through some questions and show some other elements that might be able to be used.
So in this section, we're going to start talking about integrating reports into other desktop apps like Office 365. Now it's best to do this from the Power BI service, the online version of Power BI. And there are a few options available to us from that area. You can export to PowerPoint, which will give you a point in time or snippet of a report if you want to put it into a slide deck for something. You can also export to PDF if you just want a flat report. Generally, you'd use this as a hard copy for distribution. But one of the best options is to analyze in Excel. You can see the data in a bit more detail there. And Luke, you've had some experience of this.
Yeah, so as we've gone through the process and linking on from the app that we just kind of went through, you find it's in two formats really when you're using Excel. If you're using something like the Xero app we've just gone through, what it would do is allow you to export, but it only allow you to take it down to a pivot table. So there's benefits of that. People who are more comfortable with a pivot table, how they can use it through, definitely adds value. But my kind of head that if you're coming from Power BI to go to a pivot table, it kind of seems a little bit backwards to me. It kind of feels like, why would you want to go to a pivot table when you've got an advanced pivot table in Power BI? But again, I think it's a bit horses for courses, but some people will find it more useful to do. The other side is if you're using something from your own source data, say you had, similar to what we did in the first webinar, if you've got a source CSV or an Excel file you're putting through, or something like QuickBooks, etc., where you can do the direct link that you can't do with Xero at the moment, then it will let you go back down to the column field and you can see all the entries. But again, it's kind of in reverse because you come from that point to get into Power BI.
Yeah.
And then you're going to take it back again. So
yeah, perhaps a stepping stone to help people to get their head around how Power BI looks at the data in a different way to an Excel sheet.
Yeah, I guess my head would say within Power BI, obviously you can set it as well to have the view of the source data. Like sometimes you're putting a report, you might want to sense check or check a lot of columns, especially when you put it from a database, have got the same name or very similar names. Yeah. So it can be sometimes a quicker way to go and check the source data and what you're pulling through is correct. And that table can be a bit clunky in the Power BI app itself. So perhaps that might be a way to export it back to have a quicker view, which it's there. I guess my head says it's put in because it's an easy add-on that they can put in to kind of allow you to use it. Being honest, it just shows it's another aspect it can do. I think most of the times the desktop app especially just kind of allows you to cover it. But when you're in service, there might be a benefit to be able to just put it back out. Just top of my head, really.
Sounds good. We did get some questions through the webinar today, so we're going to spend a bit of time answering those now. So Noel asked, where is all the data coming from? Good question.
Yeah. So in that particular case, again, at this point, let me apologise for still in lockdown Luke's haircut because it was shocking. But going through from that, the link going on from the data is all poured from Xero itself. The app initially links you through to their dummy data, exactly the same as you would do if you were in Xero itself. You can use their sample company to look at their invoices going through, look at their trial balances, their reports in there. It's exactly the same source data that is used in the app. And that's the information we used in today. Some of the points we had come across as well, that it was a bit difficult to see the line details on the matrix and the charts we were doing. Or I'd say on that point, I understand when you're using from the perspective, it can be a little bit difficult on there. When we do the recording that we sent out to everyone who's subscribed, we will focus in a bit more on that from that one. So if you do want to go back and just want to clarify on it, that'll be a good way to go back on the recording. You'll be able to see it a bit more zoomed in than what we're able to do today. So that will help from that perspective. But for the Xero source data, like I said, it uses the sample company that Xero create. It pulls through, hence why a lot of it was 2019 data. They haven't updated the company information much. within there since, which is why I had to be filtered that way. But yeah, again, going back on the video, if you're going through to link with your own, even if you're using the sample data, it always has a link there as well to link it into your live data. So it's very simple to do. I mentioned it in the pre-recording as well, to kind of link it back in. You can select the company within Xero, so that anybody uses Xero, you have multiple companies going in, you can link it back in then to pull your own data, but for this particular one, it was the sample company data. So.
Cool, thanks Luke. We had another question as well from Anonymous. Can you import your branded themes?
Again, we mentioned it a bit in there. There's a whole world. Like if we were going to try and cover all the customizations in one video, it'd probably be about 8 hours, and most people would have switched off after about an hour because it would be a lot of detail going in. But yes, there's a whole different world of customizations, from bringing in company logos, bringing in video content. You can bring in snippets from other from different websites, from other documents you might have. Again, flipping to what we just talked about from PowerPoint, etc., you can link it back the other way. And say you had a brand colors, like you might picked up our orange and blue kind of going across everything. We have a base template that we use that you can then apply that across multiple documents. So if you've got a set of management documents that go out, perhaps sent by different people, you might have an operations or financing, marketing, etc. If you want to keep that brand across, you can develop this color scheme, tone, font, etc., and then apply that across. It does take some doing to get it all right and how it applies to different bits, but it's definitely doable, and the more advanced going in. So again, something we've done here. We're happy to advise any of our customers coming in and want to kind of help with that. Please do let us know. We can book in some time to come and help you set it up. I'll give you some advice, but yeah,
great,
it's definitely possible.
Great. So that's all the questions answered. We've got one more.
The joys of live.
Noel has asked another question. Thanks, Noel. Looks like you need the Pro license. Just tried with the normal license. So we covered this in our previous webinar as well, that there is a difference between the Pro and the free license. Obviously, the main difference there is that the normal license allows you as an individual to interact with the Power BI service, and the Power BI Pro license allows you to do additional things like export or share data with other people. And depending on whether they're inside or outside the organization, they will need a Pro license too. That's in our previous webinar if you want to catch up on those details. And we have one more question as well from Toby. Thanks for the presentation. You're welcome. With reports I've built, seems I cannot share with colleagues unless I have Power BI Premium. Is that right? Power BI Premium is the whole company license. It can be quite expensive to apply that license. So that's why Microsoft have given you the option to use Power BI Pro instead, which is a per user license. So if there's fewer of you, it's more cost effective to use the Pro license. But in order to share reports and for people to interact with reports, you do need a Pro license, and so does the person who's receiving the report.
Yeah, like we found from that perspective, yes, if you would go through and get Pro licenses or a premium license for your business, the premium license are very expensive across the business itself. What we do from our perspective, because financial controller, I want to make sure we kind of can, it's useful information, there's definitely value coming into it, but you can get caught up in a lot of Microsoft costs by going through on it. What we found is we've got Pro licenses for a lot of our senior team, and then going through to perhaps our next tier of management in certain places. But like we've mentioned, there's ways to export it out. There's some reports that we will create a PDF version or a snapshot version of for people to view, but that just means they can't do the drill down effect. So you can still show them the headline information, or give them the export of it, or they can view it through the free license. They just won't be able to manipulate it or do anything with it, is my understanding. So that's where we've tried to balance it out. That we find there's certainly sometimes the information headline stuff is the good use to get across, and you might find the more people directly involved need to have that drill down. So it's getting the balance of licensing within your business, I think, is the key from that, so you don't get stung too much.
And again, if you're sharing externally, that's outside of your Office 365 tenant, then the person receiving the report will most definitely need a Power BI Pro license, either assigned by your organisation or their organisation, in order to be able to view at all. Okay, any more questions? You can, oh, Noel's got another question. You can now get Premium Pro user licenses, question mark. That is a good question. We will have to come back to you on that one, and we'll publish the answer in our blog. And if we have your details, we'll reply directly.
Yeah, I think that was the case coming through from our previous videos. Again, if this is the first one you're logging into, there is multiple Q&As from the previous one and another webinar when we looked at kind of the base aspects of importing from Excel and CSV into Power BI and using that. So if you haven't picked that up from our series, please do go back and have a look. There's the link through on the description if you're not already there. But we found a lot of questions came in after the point, so please do send them in, do put comments on our videos, go through the website to be able to see it. And we can pick them up from there if it's not something we've already covered today. Just before we wind up, is there anything else to come across?
Noel has just posted an update. Actually, it's per user, so you can now get premium per user licenses. Again, if we can come back to you directly, Noel, and we'll come back in the blog as well, just to answer that question in full.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the normal sort of Microsoft setup with a lot of the subscriptions. They split it into multiple levels and very slight kind of tweaking on it. For us, we found the Pro license for a couple of individuals has worked out the best costing.
Yeah.
Rather, the premium does cover you for a wider suite of people, but it's got, I think, for depending on the size of your business and the setup of the kind of people you want going into it, it has to be really specific from our experience to need the premium one on there. But yeah, they will gradually release more options, and we'll have a look and let you know what the detailed difference is here. Again, anyway, going through. For something we find might be useful for people, again, we'll post it in the blog and we'll let the details know for everyone that we think will be useful going forward.
Absolutely.
I think that just about covers it all from us today. Thanks for all the questions coming in. Again, please do keep it following. Come check our previous content out, and thank you very much for your time, and send us a call or speak to your account manager if you want any more info.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Have a great day.